Right. Pause that. You'll just.
And around the room, I see that we have all of the board members here. Thank you very much for coming out on such a hot August day for the annual meeting of the Albemarle Broadband Authority. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And the first thing on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Does anyone have any additions or corrections to make to the agenda? Around the room, seeing none. All those in favor of the agenda as proposed, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we will take that as approved. Any announcements from authority members? Nothing from the chair? No? Okay, no announcements. That takes us to our public comment period. For those of you who are on the call, if you would use the raised hand feature to let us know, which I think is pretty much limited to you, Carl. Let us know if you'd like to speak. And for folks in the room, if you'd like to say something, just use the physical raise your hand feature and give you an opportunity to address the authority. Not seeing anything online.
Raised hands.
Not seeing anything in the room. All right, so we will move on to the consent agenda. I trust everyone has received the consent agenda and had a chance to look at it.
I just coming on. Excuse me for just a moment.
Quite all right. There's
Okay.
one of the ideas, one of the things that snuck on to the consent agenda is the rules of procedure. Rules of procedure.
And that's in your agenda handout.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been emailed the red lines to.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Mr. Deloria, there have been some look like technical changes to the rules of procedure. Could you sort of inform us where they came from?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So the General Assembly made some amendments to their FOIA statutes, and so the changes that are being suggested are essentially mandated. What the General Assembly did was undermine the rule that this body adopted, which was that it would adopt all changes that the General Assembly made, but they require that we have to adopt our rules of procedure as to all virtual meetings and remote participation on an annual basis. So that's added in there. They have increased the number of all virtual meetings that we're allowed to have from 25% to 50%. There still has to be a special reason for it, and we can't have them consecutively. So we're still limited to some extent in how we can use those. So then there was also one other technical amendment, which had to do, it's kind of French to me. It has to do when the video goes off or the audio goes off and whether it goes off intentionally or unintentionally. So my advice to bodies has been to keep your video on and keep your audio on when you're participating in an all virtual meeting. And
So no muting.
It was pretty clear they didn't want people, putting it on video mute, walking out of the room, getting dinner, coming back and pretending like they
I
attended
think
the
that
meeting.
essentially they want you there participating and they want you there visible to the public. It only applies to all virtual meetings, so there is a distinction. It's just when it comes up, it's better just not to come up and Mr. Andrews.
So that's exactly what my question is. The way this is worded, it applies to all meetings for any reason, anybody who might be. Or is this, this is only for all virtual.
No,
So-
you're under C.
I'm sorry, I get it now. So this is only for all virtual.
An all virtual meeting in which nobody is muted sounds like chaos. But we'll cross that chaos bridge when we get to it.
Then there's a minor typo in there.
Like, it says when audio communicate, and I don't know that being muted means that your audio communication has failed. Again, there's a whole lot of distinctions that
Okay.
just
Yeah,
stay engaged. It doesn't apply to remote because in order to be participating remotely, you have to have a quorum physically present to begin with. So your presence doesn't necessarily have that impact. But how you monitor or police that on an all virtual meeting, I'm not certain I know.
So, Jim, did you say you saw a minor error?
A typo in the third line of that. It said with the director.
Oh.
I think it meant with the director.
I believe the director is supposed to be a bit of a wit.
Saw that.
All right, with that amendment. Correction, I'll make that correction.
Any other questions about the rules of procedure? Well, then we'll, should we take the consent agenda as a slate, or you want to split it up? Let's take it as a slate then. Everything on the consent agenda, which is the rules of procedure and the financial report, all those who are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, consent agenda with modest discussion is approved. Item 6, the June 26th, and dare I say placeholder July 24th, no meeting minutes. Mr. Secretary, do you have any substantive
No,
alterations to the minutes that were distributed?
no, but I did get comments from Walden for two minor things. Super minor. Yeah, they're really minor. No
Does
changes.
it say Waldo is great in there again?
It will, these minutes will.
Okay, yeah. Very good. Well, then I move to approve those minutes.
Second.
There's a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? They do note that Waldo is great. Election of officers. We are required to elect officers on an annual basis. We need to have a chairman, a vice chairman, a secretary, a treasurer, or at least we've certainly had all these in the past. We have had remarkable lack of success in distributing these jobs, other than to those poor unfortunates who held them. Speaking as the chairman, I would not take it as an offense of any kind if someone else wanted to be the chairman. I'm told it looks great on your permanent record. And so I'll open the floor for nominations.
I'm gonna nominate you.
Yeah. Second.
As chair.
Are there any other nominations? Do we want to elect everyone back to the same job they've been in for the last year?
Yes. Nobody else wants to take notes.
Do the folks in those jobs consent to standing for them?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm one of them. I just don't do anything.
I feel my lips moving when he pulls the string. All those in favor of the slate of officers thus proposed, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing no opposition. The new slate of officers are invited to the party afterwards for the normal coronation events. Next item is establishing a schedule for our regular meeting dates. And we have a proposed schedule that was distributed. Hope everyone has a copy of it. But we're basically looking at the fourth Wednesday of each month. We need to sort of fill in the blank on what we're doing here with December. But that was not going to be the fourth Wednesday for the reasons that it falls at an inopportune time in the month of December, and we kind of were moving that to the beginning of December usually so that we would smash our Thanksgiving and Christmas meetings into one December meeting. I would propose that we go ahead and schedule all these meetings because I think it worked out fairly well this year that we could cancel meetings when we did not have business we needed to transact. This at least got them on the calendar. And hopefully we haven't had too many wasted meetings where we have some need to get together in one fashion or another. So in terms of a date for the December meeting, when are we going to slate that?
Can I suggest the 11th? I think the Board of Supervisors will meet on the 4th and the 18th. That first and the third, is that right?
We're meeting on the 11th.
And let's not do the 11th.
I think that what we decided was the first and second of December. First and second Wednesday.
So that put us on the 18th.
Do we want to slide off of a Wednesday? How's
We
the,
can, there's no November
how's the
meeting.
10th of December? The Tuesday.
That works for me.
The later we get in the month, the more likely we are to run into people's office parties and things like that. That's my concern there. 10th of December,
Sounds good.
Is that a combined November, 10th of December?
there will be no
Okay.
November meeting and the
No.
December meeting
Not
will
yet.
be on the 10th.
The only issue, and I won't check this now, Chair, but we have two, maybe three rooms to choose from now. So that's a good, IT has done a great job of activating a couple other rooms so that we can have, if we have to have virtual, well, we have to have virtual attendees for the public. So that'll be fine. It might just, the question is whether or not we can get this room, but this far out, my guess is we're 95% there.
In the worst case scenario, if we can't get it, we can reschedule the meeting at
Yeah.
another meeting.
Or make
So-
it virtual.
Or make the whole meeting
Yeah.
virtual for the reason that we couldn't get a
Good
place
idea.
to meet.
Okay. So let's call it December 10th.
Just a question around the schedule. Chair, I understand that, you know, the thought process of schedule them all, we can always cancel them. Is there any consideration to just looking at a kind of every other month pace instead? Or do we want to?
I'd be happy to consider that.
We probably ended up hitting about 50% over the past year or so. Maybe.
Yeah, we canceled 3 meetings last fiscal year. Actually, that's 4, I'm sorry, 4 meetings.
Is there a benefit to keeping it on the schedule every
Means we
month
can
in case we
have-
need to meet to sign or do anything with grants or?
Yeah,
anything
That's
else?
how the EDA does it. They keep it and
Yeah.
knowing that they can always cancel it. I'm fine. I just
Yeah.
flag it. So. Other board members have an opinion on the calendar, just keep it as scheduled. We can always do what we have to go, which is no topics to meet on, we just cancel. Yeah. thank you.
Okay, then with the addition of December 10th, or filling in of December 10th as the meeting date for December, I'd like to propose the distributed calendar of fourth Wednesday of each month as our meeting schedule for the next year until through August 27th, 2025. Is there a second? All those in favor of that schedule, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then this schedule is approved. Very good. We've already, number 9, adopted the
Yes.
rules of procedure. So we'll go on number 10, old business, the body 2021 update.
All right, thank you, Chair. I can get to the slides. So thank you, Board, for having this meeting this evening. The Broadband Affordability and Accessibility Office continues to field requests from customers of Brightspeed. Most of these installation issues, we've got a significant issue that's going on at Bridlewood Lane, which is in the northwest part of the county. I won't go into further detail on that, but we are still doing a lot of work with installation issues for the Brightspeed Body 2021 project. We have asked repeatedly from Brightspeed to provide us with what is called take rate. It's part of our contract with them that they're supposed to provide us with take rate information. And although they've provided us with subscriber information based on the project areas you see on the screen, so they've done the work to break those down. They've given us all of their account of all of their subscribers within the project areas. What we're looking for is how many of the people who are offered fiber have taken fiber. So they understand, they're just having a tough time figuring out how they get that, which is a little surprising, but it seems like they should know who their fiber customers are, but enough said on that.
Well, let me raise a question, Mike. I mean, we know what the contract specified originally for how many people were in each area. And they should know how many people have taken the service in each area.
That's correct.
And we negotiated down to an overall number. That was what we all were going to agree was the possible number of subscribers. So the total number of subscribers divided by that overall number should be the take rate, right?
That's correct.
Okay,
As you
just want to make sure
recall,
I understand.
As the project was moving, they did a great job of giving us take rate. You know, we had it on an ongoing basis. It's just the final section seems to have left them without the means that they once had to calculate take rates.
The person doing that must not be there.
That is very likely. So if you recall, we had a breakdown by project area, the take rate, and it was over time as well. So, you know, it showed significant progress as each of the areas were built. Now we're just looking for that final take rate. And they never gave us I don't know the pointer, but the major section up there, the largest of the polygons, is the area where we don't have take rate information. So we can't calculate overall take rate without knowing how many people in that big section, the Stony Point section, have taken the service. So that's one thing. The other thing that we continue to wait for is that during the transition from CenturyLink to Lumen and then to Brightspeed, a lot of the work that went on, especially early in the project, was under the auspices of Lumen. So Lumen was the prime contract acting on behalf of Centel or CenturyLink. So getting all that information together so that Brightspeed can put that together in a comprehensive invoice has not happened yet. The latest on that is that they have the information supposedly from Lumen by the end of this month, August. And then they'll take the time to go through and reconcile all of that and then prepare final information so that both DHCD and the Broadband Authority can authorize reimbursement. So as it stands, you know, neither the Commonwealth nor the Broadband Authority has reimbursed, because they haven't given us information, have reimbursed Brightspeed for any of the project work that went on VADI 21. And
all the incentives for them to comply are out there that we can put. So.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So it's been I think it's been over a year now since they might have done the final install along Stony Point. I'm looking at Waldo, but
April.
April,
April
so
last
6
year.
months, so.
The final installation of the dregs were earlier this year, but the major work was
Yeah.
done in April of 2023.
Yeah. So, sorry to drag this out. I don't have any other information to provide at this point.
Understood.
It's gonna be weird when we have to turn over millions of dollars to the state treasurer for the unclaimed money office. Someday, some new Brightspeed employee is gonna fill out the paperwork on the website and be like, oh my God, we're owed $3 million. This is amazing. What a baffling progression this is. They didn't really want to do the work and now they don't really want the money.
You're under a lot of transition. Things get lost.
Okay,
We go on to VADI.
any other
2022?
questions on 21?
No.
Okay, if, just as a reminder, questions from community members, please feel free to have them email or call us, so that your work, I guess I'm looking at our two board members, you know, your work, you've got more important things to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
I appreciate your help on
Okay.
this. Every time I've done so, you have been so helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. I wasn't digging for that.
Sure, Mike.
Sure. All right. Next, I'm sorry, I moved the slide forward.
Next, VADI 2022.
Okay, we're lucky to have Dennis Reese in Lori All's house. Dennis is the premier engineer working on the Firefly work, and Dennis and I have known each other for years, and I'm glad he's here to take any questions. Lori, you all know, because she's the TJPEC broadband advocate, managing this entire project, which is, we're one of 13 counties that are participating in this. So I'll just give you the update that I know about, and hopefully I'll get through this quickly in case there's any questions. I don't see, you can stop me or whatever. So the really positive news from the last month is that due to things that were outside of our control, underground build is happening to connect the St. John Road area. Originally, that was supposed to be part of the Dominion Middle Mile. And Firefly took it upon themselves to redirect their teams to go underground to connect this. So what that means is that the power poles that are going down to St. John Road and the power poles that are on St. John Road will not have Dominion Middle Mile on it. Instead, the residents along St. John Road will have what's called a underground build. There's a couple of benefits to that. With some risks. I mean, once you go underground, if someone comes through and digs something up along the road, there's a possibility that there'd be a fiber break. But with the aerial stuff, you've got trees falling down, and then if Dominion Energy ever decided to go underground, at least in this particular case, Firefly's fiber will already be underground. So that's one less thing that'll have to be done. And I'm sure eventually Dominion Energy will get to a strategic underground placement for St. John Road. So that's a real positive. We feel very strong that this is going to be done in the fall timeframe. So we'll talk a little bit about that on the next page because there's a little bit of misunderstanding. I think the word's getting out better. The definition of the times when people get connected. I don't mean to jump ahead, but I'll talk a little bit about that later. TJPDC has been running effective quarterly stakeholder meetings. They include all of the electricity providers, so CVEC obviously, and AEP and Dominion Energy, Rappahannock are all participating. Again, I remind everybody that Albemarle County is the only county in the Commonwealth that has 4 electricity providers. So, we continue to benefit from that, I think. But it's certainly something that's appreciated, and TJPDC does a great job in doing that. And the group there, they send us invoices of which we pay 10 of them. So that's part of the process here. It's TJPDC has decided to work this through on a more frequent basis. So it's good that we're getting the money out there because that's what helps Firefly continue to support the project in major ways. So, we've had a lot of talk about, where residents or community members can find out about their projects. And Firefly has been doing a great job updating that partner site. So when we talk about making sure that we're seeing progress, the best place to go is to that partner site, which is listed here. You can just go to fireflyvirginiava.com and then look for the partners pages and search on Albemarle and you'll find us. The same information from what I can tell is also on another separate page called construction update. So you can go to either one of those. So one of the things they do on the construction update is give a status of all the different project areas. And I'm going to pause for a minute just to see if there's any questions about this, but I will just want to point out that for fall of 2024, St. John Road will be connecting. But if you look very carefully at what is defined as fall 2024, that means that connections can start on 12/21 and still meet their goal. So the first connection could happen on 12/21. Most people would say that is winter, but that is the process, the whole scheme of how long it would take.
Meteorological fall begins,
Yes.
in September, it goes until
Right.
December.
So, we've got the, most exciting, there's Deca Lane and Ivy Farms, Thurston. Some of these areas are, have been waiting, and I can't count the emails. There's one particular person around the Deca Lane project that seems to email me every week, but all positive. So we're anxious to see the connections starting here or connecting now. So the next big thing that'll happen here is that connecting now will show up.
Well, I have the impression that, looking at some of the other aspects of this project, that the good folks at Firefly have been lighting up places in other counties like mad. So by the time it gets to us, well-oiled machine. I mean,
Right.
you know, this will be smooth, seamless.
Yeah, so if I may, so we are working in these, all those areas right now, let's say summer. You know, there's still some factors that may push that back. Unfortunately, one season, we've got 1 month left. We're working hard to beat that, to get the first people connected in those areas. We'll let you know if that does slide, but our projections all along are best estimates. So there's a lot of factors in play when you're building a construction project. There's the easement, permits, environmental assessments. We are working with partners. There's a lot of nuances to this, and we are getting it is getting smoothed out. Dominion is doing a lot of work in the county. A lot of their make-ready construction is well underway throughout. And that's, you know, that's not really shown in our maps yet, because that's not ready for us to turn over and actually start connecting people. We want to make sure we're giving people the right expectations, because there's a lot of pieces that need to be worked out as we're going through these areas. But there is construction happening throughout the county. The Dominion's doing a lot of work in those areas, and we expect AEP to finish their work in the Keene area probably by no later than spring. And as you know, we've wrapped up. I think we got 13 connections left in AEP Red Hill left as of this week, and that's even the new signups. So in AEP Keene, we've connected. The latest numbers I have, which are probably a week older, more of like 473 people. That's roughly 50%, maybe a little bit more, of the households in AEP Red Hill. And then of that, there's a few ARPA areas in there which we haven't submitted invoice for yet, but 87 ARPA locations in AEP Red Hill have been connected as well. So just to give you an update that things are progressing, and we still plan on finishing the project on time.
It's good to hear. And understandably, a lot of moving parts. The weather doesn't always give you the weather you want.
Yeah.
The rocks in the stream bed you got to cross are always in the worst possible place. We understand. Just keep us apprised.
I see Dominion contractors literally every day that I drive to town, and on Stony Point Road and on Prophet Road, like they're just, seems like they're putting in long days, and they're mostly stringing new wire from what I can see, but it's or cable, whatever the proper term is, they're doing that.
Yeah.
They seem to put in long days and get it done.
Well, thank you. Everyone I talk to is still very excited about it. So.
It has been fascinating to see how they do it with like a 4-wheeler basically, and they just like drive along and pull. I didn't know how they pulled cable taut. I didn't think it was just like yawing it up the side of the road, but it works. It's not dumb if it works.
Okay.
Anything else, Mike?
Yes. Yeah, this is here's what I'm going to take. I don't know the right word. I wish I could remit the prior percentages. Jason and I decided on our own to sort of calculate percentages on the data that PJPDC has been providing us. And one of the questions that came up at our last meeting is, where is this to scale? Meaning, what is the final number? So how close are we?
Percentage of total.
Yes, percentage of total. And it's difficult to calculate that is the best way that I can understand, the best way that I can explain it to you all. So at this point, the only thing that Jason and I are going to be able to provide you is what's been provided before. And we're not sure that there are other metrics that the Broadband Authority would like to see outside of what we're already providing. that combined with the updates to the construction pages, the Albemarle partner page, just to see how things are progressing by project area.
Something that would be useful to me. When you go back to that project, like, you don't have to go back to it.
Okay.
If you look at the project page, you have a snapshot today. If and when things get updated, because the folks at Firefly need more time or get something done earlier, it would be nice to keep track of where we were versus where we are. You know, this was supposed to be done in summer of 2025, and now it's looking like winter of 2026 or something like that. That would be,
Okay.
it'll be easy to lose that just with the rolling updates to the date. And it's, in many of these places, these folks have been made aware of when their
Right.
stuff's coming.
And then they
So
receive letters if the date moves.
if the date moves, if the date moves up, if the date moves down, generally people don't call and complain, but if it moves further into the future, it would be nice for all of us to be aware of that. Not that haranguing the folks at Firefly is going to be contributing to the positive. We just want to be able to keep track of what's happening with the project. So that's something I would ask is that you take all the current dates and you just compare them on a monthly basis and let us know this one has slipped.
That'd be great. I was thinking the same thing. When we saw it, it just didn't bubble up enough for me to, in my consciousness, to call it up, but you're right.
Okay, so original dates compared to like changes. Okay. Yeah, just the last month.
Yeah, a month look at, what's changed.
Yeah.
That's not always so obvious when you're just looking at the website. It's like, well, my date didn't move, so I'm moving on,
Right. All right, you get your connectivity through this, don't you?
Ideally, they start in spring of next year in my neighborhood, which goes through June.
So I see Dennis taking that. I think it's something that the communications department probably has the biggest pulse on. My recollection, I've seen a couple of these letters. Not that I was in the project areas that got moved around, but I think just based on providing me with knowledge that something was moving. I think it's possible that we could be included in any changes like that.
Well, ultimately, you could just look at the slide from the last
Snapshot,
month.
yeah.
Yeah,
snapshot
Compare the
last month.
screenshots. That would work too.
Yeah,
Print the
that's
page,
another way
look
to.
at it again.
Yeah, we can go.
That's
one.
all the effort required for this.
Good point. I mean, we could go back to the May PowerPoint and then
Yeah.
put that in
Just
there.
highlight
Okay,
the two.
got it.
Yeah,
So
that'd be
we,
great.
just starting from,
We
and
don't
plus,
need
if
to over
it's just
engineer
starting
this.
from, yes, exactly. Just starting from now, we're set.
Yeah.
Because it's comparing what the last slide was during our next meeting, during the next broadband authority meeting in September. Got it.
Right, do we have do you remember the expected total number of passings for the 22?
Yes, I've got that. So the expected total passings in Albemarle was 5172.
Okay, so just looking at the bottom number. What'd you say, sir, 51?
5172.
With 18%.
Yeah, so you have an ability to look at just.
Yeah,
At
least the
an
passing.
aggregate, what the
Right.
passings are.
Right.
And that tells you something.
Yeah, there's challenges there too, a little, they're not as significant as the other metrics, but. The passings number changes because new homes are built that weren't calculated, so.
Just go with the number.
Number you got.
Yeah.
Don't over engineer it, all right.
If they come out at 104%, great.
Yeah.
No one's gonna complain.
Well, I mean, and that will probably happen because, I mean, this application was put in 2021.
Exactly.
There's natural growth happening.
Yep.
All right. That was it for 22. Unless, Lori, you want to talk a little bit? You got a quarterly meeting coming up. But-
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis provided all the information. that
Okay,
you
excellent.
needed, So unless there's any questions.
Well, thank you both for coming. Really appreciate it. All right, Mike, you want to take us to the BAAO?
Sure, I will do that. Thank you, Chair. We're going to talk briefly about the Coalition for a Regional Digital Opportunity or Digital Equity Plan. And then a little bit about what's happening with BEAD and Digital Equity Act, the money that will go into providing digital opportunity for citizens of the Commonwealth and Albemarle. So Jason Inafuentes started a local coalition and it was named RDEP at that point. He's doing a great job of coordinating with the PJPDC localities to apply for a $150,000 non-match grant that we're going to potentially use to hire a consultant. We've already done a lot of work here in Albemarle that this consultant will do in the other organizations. It's just going out to community events and gathering information of what people think their digital skills acquisition and digital equipment needs are, whether they need a more powerful laptop or they need help navigating through Zoom. Those types of things are things that we're looking forward to as part of the Digital Equity Act and what are called BEAD non-deployment. So there needs to be a whole, and we're actually considering this, just doing a half an hour or some sort of virtual meeting just to talk through any of the county leadership and elected officials what BEAD is all about and the big difference between non-deployment and deployment funds, because there's a lot of confusion about it. I mean, there's even people saying, well, we already have the BEAD money. Why haven't we put it to work? We haven't had the BEAD money, and it's going to be probably a year before the BEAD money starts flowing. Just because someone said it's available doesn't mean the money's out there and ready for use. And it's a little disappointing when people say, well, why aren't you using BEAD to do this? And we just have to make sure that we're giving people not an education, but a little more information about how long it's going to be before BEAD funds are actually put into play. County of Albemarle is very fortunate in that they made a decision to use some ARPA money to contract, and we awarded a contract with Firefly, and they're filling in the gaps that we're seeing from leftover from Body 22. So that work is continuing. So we won't need BEAD for those activities, which is a real positive. So another thing that came up, and I don't know if Carl is still on, but there's a map that has been going around that shows that there are incomplete applications. And when I read an incomplete application, I read it as somebody submitted an application and it was marked incomplete. So you either failed the class or you're going back and repeating it. In our particular case, if you look at our map, we have submitted an application in for this $150,000 worth of planning funds. And we've done so with the expectation that the counties and the city of Charlottesville around us on this map, which is a little difficult to read on the screen, but are co-applicants with us. So the county will run the $150,000 on behalf of these other counties to just make it easier for the consultant that's hired to go through and do all of the work that needs to be done in each of our partner localities. I don't want to go on too much, but just to give everyone an update, we're targeting September 15th. We have to have memorandums of understanding from each of these counties, and some of them may take a little longer than that, but we feel confident that we'll have all of the localities listed, and the city of Charlottesville is a locality, I have to remind myself. But essentially we're looking forward to getting that application in. And so I didn't explain that well, but this money is rolling. So it's money that's sitting there, and incomplete to me is really in process. So until the money's all run out, our application sits as in process versus incomplete. All right. Well, it's not complete. It's true. All right. I'm sure if any questions about that, you can email either Jason or me, and I'll answer it just to keep rolling here. So there's a page, and it's a little hidden here, but there's a page out on DHC that is dedicated to BEAD. And what Jason did is he took that timeline and made it kind of easier to read so that you're not having to go to the page. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows that the second phase of BEAD is the actual process where the broadband providers submit for funding. So there's not a locality process in this other than giving that potential broadband provider who's looking for BEAD a letter of support. So we don't submit the application. The application is actually coming from the broadband provider. There's a challenge process that occurred that was completed and submitted to NTIA at the end of July. So there was a lot of hullabaloo about, well, the money's already out there, let's go out and get it. And it's like, they can't release the application portal until NTIA approves the Commonwealth's challenge process. So we're in a phase right now where we're waiting for the federal government to approve our challenge process, which allows broadband providers to look at the data on specific maps and say, well, we're already providing that particular service, or we have a financial commitment that you don't know about, that we're going to provide service to those locations. Everybody understand that, because that's an important complex part of this, and you'll see some of this in a map that I'll bring up here in a minute. So after that happens, after the map showing the unserved location is released, the providers get a chance to look at those, and they send in letters of intent. So they have to send a letter of intent. And then there's a 60, I think it's 60 days, don't quote me on this. It's on the DHCD page. So another 60 days has to happen. And then they can get their letters of support together. And then finally, the application window will open. And then there's a lot of time for applications to be submitted, scored, and ranked. And all of us with FODI experience have seen that run from either 18 months at the best to sometimes 2.5, 3 years. So, looking at the very outset of this, yes, we're hopeful we're going to have people seeing the funding from BEAD happen in 26. But it's, to me at least, this is just my Cole's opinion. It's very unlikely that BEAD money for Virginia for deployment will be released until late 25, early 26, optimistically, and it could be even longer. It really depends on where NTIA is. So one of the reasons I bring that up is because the BEAD deployment funds, the multitude of funds, all the money that's available across the Commonwealth for deployment, actually building fiber, is holding up DHCD's ability to release what are called the BEAD non-deployment funds, the money that we want to gain access to for the purpose of providing digital skills training for people and going out and helping the community learn how to better use their digital tools, going as far as providing digital access through devices that are distributed to recognized individuals or people who qualify. It's just a lot of things that the BEAD non-deployment funding can do that we're sort of on hold, waiting on how that's going to happen. So I just wanted to go through that quickly. Once again, questions for Jason and me, you can email separately or whatever. Just keep an eye on that dhcdvirginia.gov/BEAD page, and that'll be updated with dates as they come. Right now, it's all TBD, except for the July 25th thing that they announced. So
Moving ahead.
yes, that's it, I guess. Anyway, let me go through. That's it for the DEA plans. All right. I'm pausing here just to regain my my status. So when I talked about the map, this is potentially going to create a problem in the community. Already has a little. There's been some preliminary data that's gone out that says that we're going to have potentially 1,000 unserved locations left. What hasn't happened is DHCD hasn't heard from Firefly and our office about a lot of these are already served or they have a financial commitment. So that financial commitment is the ARPA fund that we put forward, and that'll eliminate, probably up to all of these, except for maybe 200 very remote locations that hopefully we'll be able to work through and make sure those people are connected as well. And they may end up having to apply for BEAD. So, even myself at one point was like, well, we really won't be that involved with BEAD, but it'll still be an opportunity and an option. So our hope is that we don't need it at all.
But if there's 200, 200 folks that BEAD funding could help,
That's right.
we'd like to take advantage of those funds.
Yes, exactly.
Or like to work with a vendor who's going to take advantage of those funds.
Yes, sir. Yep, and we're thinking about that. Not quite ready to present an option. Go ahead, Dennis.
So we did challenge all those locations that were VATI 2022. We challenged all the Albemarle ARPA locations as well. Already before the deadline. We challenged even some of the other federal funding we had. And we just submitted to them the VATI 2024, which doesn't really have Albemarle, but their maps still are not updated because it's not approved by NTIA. So they're showing more than what they should, I think, still. I still don't think the state's got their map straightened out yet.
Okay.
So,
We'll work with them. I mean, that's the goal. I mean, the last thing we want to have happen, and this is more of a Commonwealth statement, is that an ISP submits for locations for BEAD that already have service, because that, for us, that takes away non-deployment funds. Any place that's overbuilt, and the possibility of that happening, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we just need to avoid that, the possibility of that happening.
And I'm for your non-deployment funds get spent, I'd really like to get it deployed to everybody. So if there are 200 more people,
Good point.
what we can do to make that happen would be first and foremost on my list. Or perhaps that'd be first and foremost on the AAO's list.
Yes.
I don't want to step on your approach. As you go through these slides, you throw out the notion that perhaps ABBA would put in a letter of support.
Yes, whoops, sorry.
And the question is one of timing. Is that ABBA or is that BAAO who puts in that letter of support?
Yes, exactly.
So we don't want to be remiss on, moving that forward expeditiously, because we'd like, whether it's 1 or 200, those people to get every opportunity they can as quickly as they can.
Can you help me understand that last bullet? I read the commentary that you and Jason had back and forth, and it made me understand it even less. And I'm not sure I understand just what that's illustrating.
Yeah, so let's consider an ISP has infrastructure that's nearby a location. And an interested party says, I'd really like you to build to my house. And that interested ISP does a desktop review, and in some cases may send a technician out who actually measures how long it's going to take for them to build. So it's what we generally call a drop, or not a lateral, a drop to a specific home, whether that's hybrid coax cable or fiber. Our preference would be fiber. But both of them have costs. And if a community member sees those costs and feels like they can't afford it, unfortunately, the ISP considers that location served. So we're looking at those as unserved. And we're trying to figure out ways to make sure either the ISP who has the equipment nearby or one of our partners will be able to serve them instead, without going into a whole lot more details. It is a cost equation. And one of the things that has happened to us in this particular case is a lot of the areas that we're looking at were claimed as served up until probably middle of 2023, when one of the ISPs resubmitted their data to the Federal Communication Commission, indicating that now a bunch of locations that they had once claimed served are suddenly unserved. So it's put us in a little bit of a bind, frankly.
Places you couldn't get funding for before, now that would be possible.
Yes, exactly, and in a number of ways. So we're looking forward to sort of correcting the DACD map, and that sort of gives you a little bit of scope. We can talk more in detail if you like, but good. Thank you for the question.
Broadband providers have to file a form with FCC, the form 477, that says,
Yeah.
here's the areas we serve, but there's no penalty if they claim to serve a large area than they really do. But it does mean that their competitors can't receive federal funding to provide service to that area because they've got it covered. So they have an incentive to dissemble and claim that they serve a large area than they really do. It's a long-standing problem.
Okay, slide.
Mike, can I ask that as that map gets updated, you bring this back to us with, you know.
Yes,
more clear
exactly.
data?
That's a great, yeah, I'll put that down. That's the.
We don't need to see the same thing over and over again, but as soon as the DHCD map gets updated, it would be nice.
Yeah, the map is, a public document, I shouldn't say that, a public map. It's called connectingvirginia.com, so all one word.com. And then there's filters that you can go through, and it's going to raise concerns, you know, because it's not showing accurate data yet. It's clearly not showing accurate data yet.
It'll never be 100% accurate. But
Yeah.
it can be a lot, it should be
Yeah,
a lot more
our
accurate.
goal
than
is
it
to
currently
improve
is,
it,
yeah.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
So like a lot of our challenges aren't shown on that map, even though DHCD accepted. So.
Right.
And suppose that's part of the map that went to NTIA. So it's a problem state in the Commonwealth that's happened throughout, not just in this county.
So I think this sort of shows you, and this is a little confusing because all of the shaded areas are served. Even the far reaching little white polygon.
Committed.
Yeah, or committed, right, but that white polygon toward the end there was a Vadi 20 project with CenturyLink that was fiber all along Green Creek Road. So there's no real way to sort of show everything, or we could have made it orange, but anyway. So, you know, it just shows that we're going to have the entire county covered. Our goal is, by the time the next version of the Connecting Virginia map comes out, that we'll see far fewer of these yellow dots. You know, that's our goal, is to make sure, and then we can concentrate and focus on how we're going to serve what is remaining. Whether that's working with an ISP, or looking at a product or program called LECAP, which is it's mainly for low income, but it's moving into more middle income, can go through and gain access to funds that DHCD provides, and they'll help offset the cost of those, what we call long drops. So there's a couple of things we're going to be working on to make sure everybody gets covered. And here's an example of where some of the things are happening. On the current DHCD map, and once again, I know there's a lot of work that's going on behind the scenes to correct this. You'll see people that are currently served right next to a house that is unserved. But we know that the provider's out there, and it might just be that location is showing up as unserved because they haven't committed to take fiber to their house yet. And for some reason, the mapping is showing them as unserved. So we've got to clean all of that type of activity up, knowing that, you know, these folks can order fiber, they just have decided not to. That shouldn't mean that it's an unserved location. Well, in a sense, it's unserved because the person didn't decide to.
Is it unservable?
Exactly, unservable. Is it clearly, there's no way to get to them. In this particular case, there is a way to get to them. The landowner has decided not to order fiber service. So our plan is to work with DHCD. We've already had a couple of conversations, or Jason's had a couple of conversations. And I know Dennis, you and Firefly have been working with DHCD too. You've said that a couple of times, but just to reiterate, we see a number of ways to get the numbers down. And then once we get the numbers down, we'll focus on finding out ways that we can assist everybody who's still in an unserved need location. So the big question that's going to come in front of the Albemarle Broadband Authority is, once all of that work has happened, whether or not we want to issue a need letter of support to one or more ISPs who are considering submitting for BEAD for unserved locations in Albemarle County. So that's sort of the next big step for the Broadband Authority. I know, we're trying to get out. I mean, I'm hoping that I'm not boring y'all to death. Any other questions about this or?
Yeah, when this says expects fewer than 200 locations across the county.
BEAD which will become BEAD eligible.
Will become BEAD eligible. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And you know, if you read the news, Starlink is potentially going to be a BEAD provider. There's all sorts of things going on. We just don't know. So.
Okay, any questions for Mike?
That was a lot. Thank you all for your patience.
Thank you. Moving us on, is there any new business? Not hearing any new business? Any other matters? What you just, things you want to talk about? All right then, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. We will convene again in September on the 25th. Unless you hear otherwise. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody online.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome. You.